Good morning, fellow Unraid Plexers. In today's video, I'm going to be working on my personal server. All my media is on my Synology DS1520 Plus NAS, where I run a bunch of Docker containers for all the fun tools. But a year ago, I moved my Plex server to an 11th gen Intel i5 NUC running Unraid as only a Docker host. So, I ran into trouble earlier in the week. I had a cache pool made up of an old Crucial 500 gigabyte SATA drive and a new Sabrent Rocket NVMe I bought for this system, and my Docker subsystem crashed, and it turned out to be the old Crucial SSD conking out on me. So it was very easy to remove from the system, and I've been running for a little over half a week on just my one drive. So today I'm going to first add a replacement SATA SSD, a 500 gigabyte Western Digital Red drive, and then once that's added, I'll remove this Sabrent Rocket and replace that with another Western Digital 500 gigabyte NVMe drive. So I'll pause this video multiple times to accomplish all this, but I'll show you how it all transpires in Unraid. So the first thing to double check is I don't want to stop a Plex stream for anybody. Let's make this full screen. So there's no one streaming on my server, and this little Plex Streams add-on is a neat little card to add to Unraid. So what I'll do is I'll stop the array. Down here it says it's stopping services. And we see the containers are already starting to gray out. And the array has stopped. So now if I go in here, we'll see we can start manipulating things. So I actually need to shut down Unraid at this point. So we'll go back to dashboard and I'll power off, proceed, and I will jump back in once I've added the new SATA SSD, and we'll create a shared cache pool together, and then we'll remove the NVMe from the Unraid software to then physically swap in the replacement. I will return. And we're back. The new SSD drive is installed, and I grabbed a picture of it so I can open it up in Google Photos. This is my 11th gen NUC. There's the Sabrent Rocket NVMe. There's the old Crucial that I probably should have never used in the first place because it was a used drive that I've had for a while. And here's the new Western Digital Red installed. So let's see if things are booted back up. Okay, so we're back into Unraid. The array has started, but my Docker containers have not restarted. They're on a time delay to make sure that my mount for my Synology NAS has mounted first. So let's stop the array again. Let's make this full screen. And we'll look for excuse me, we'll look for notifications down here. And excuse me in advance, I'm in the basement filming, and if the central AC kicks on, it'll be louder than it is in my office where I normally record. Any second now. And for those of you who aren't used to seeing my setup, there is no parity disk in this because there are no array disk in my setup. I'm using the two SSDs as only a location for Docker containers to run because my two media apps, Plex and Channels DVR, point back to media on my Synology NAS. Alright, I don't know why it's taken so long to shut down. Alright, let me pause this until it fully shuts the array down. And I'm back after a long break. I discovered something interesting. Because of my unique setup, let's go back here. Well, I'm not going to be able to show it. My unique setup automatically waits to mount my Synology media. And then I have the Dockers all set up to mount later. So it takes about 8 minutes for a reboot to get to the point where my Plex container is up and running, which is the last container to load. Well, I can't stop the array until my disks are mounted, which is pretty interesting, but I tried a couple times and then just decided to wait until the mount happened and then I could stop the array. So I've swapped the drives. Let's go back to the photo. I pulled this out, I put that in, and I was only running the one cache drive. Let's make this full screen. We'll go to the main setting and the pool devices. We'll just go to cache 2 that's unassigned, and I'll add the Western Digital Red. And that is all I have to do. I can now start the array. Starting services. The array started. And now I have a cache pool, and you can see the lower read and writes on the new drive. That's it. I've replaced the old bad drive Okay, so I've never seen this warning before. Pool BTRFS has too many profiles. You can ignore this warning when a pool balance operation is in progress, which I imagine is what's going on now. So again, I'm not an Unraid expert. I know enough to be dangerous in how to set up a NUC for Unraid for a few containers like Plex to point back to media on a Synology NAS. So I'm going to pause the video while I figure out how long the pool balance operation takes, and then when I'm sure that's done, I'll come back and we'll remove the Sabrent NVMe and pop in the replacement Western Digital Red NVMe. Back soon. Well, I'm back and I couldn't find any information that was helpful, and Unraid does not appear to be doing anything, and it's only 119 gigabytes that I'm using on the cache pool, and it's all here in app data. So removing, let's get back here, removing this will not be destructive to it. So I'm just going to stop the array, remove this, shut it down, and put my new NVMe drive with the assumption that all my data is already on this new SATA one, and we'll see what happens. So let's go back. Oh, maybe I'm not clear to do it yet because I can't stop the array. So something must be going on. even though I don't see an indication of what's going on. Well, so let's just leave things alone, and I'll check back in half an hour. And when I see this not grayed out, I'll assume I can safely stop the array again. So, again, not an Unraid expert. I know my way around Plex and a Synology NAS, and Unraid is wonderful for the way I use it, but I don't know everything about it yet. So, stay tuned. And that wasn't too long of a break, so now the stop array is not grayed out anymore. So let's stop that. And this does take a little bit, so I will pause the video again. And that didn't take too long. The array is now stopped, so we'll hit the main tab. And I will remove the Sabrent rocket. And let me just start the array. To see if our data is now on the Western Digital cache drive. Okay, the array has started. Here's the single cache drive, and I'll browse into it. And this is looking good. There's my existing Plex setup. So I'm unable to stop the array, so I'm going to pause the video until I'm able to stop it, and then we'll add the new drive. The last new drive, let's say. And I'm back again. So finally the stop array button is no longer grayed out. I'm not sure what Unraid was doing behind the scenes, but we'll trust that it was doing something important. I had already removed the original NVMe after adding in the Western Digital SATA drive to replace the crucial one. So now our last stop will be to stop the array and then shut Unraid down one more time to swap out the NVMe drive. So let's just assume that the array had stopped and you've watched me shut it down. Oh, there it is. It's stopped. So now I can power off. And I will be back once it's shut down and I've swapped the NVMe drive. This should be the final segment. And I'm back once more. So the Unraid NUC booted, the array started. The one cache drive is in use, and all my Docker containers started up after their timeout, and we have our Plex Media server running. It's up and running, no issue, no data loss. So we'll stop the array again for the final time. Oh, and let's see. Let me close this and open Photos back up while I'm waiting for the array to stop. So this shows both the new drives installed, and here's the old drives. And I've tucked the little NUC back where it belongs between the older DS1019 Plus NAS and the newer DS1520 Plus NAS. And I get comments on my little stickers with the numbers. Every 6 months or so I shut everything down and I carry these up to the garage and start my air compressor up and blow all the little dust bunnies out. And this just is a helpful reminder on how the drives go back in. Why label them every 6 months? I just leave the labels on. Okay, so the array has stopped. We'll go back to main, and we are at the pool devices, and we will click down, and here's the other Western Digital, the NVMe one. We'll add that. While we're here, we will remove the Sabrent rocket from the historical listing. What's this WDC 500? Well, that's this one, so we're not going to remove that. Okay, so that's all good. So we'll go back and we'll start the array. We'll wait for notification of it starting. The same warning is coming up about the BTRFS pool. And you can ignore this warning when pool balancing operation is in progress, which is what's going on. So the array has started. Oh, let's back up again. We can't stop it because even though I don't have an indication of it happening, I know that this pool is balancing. And I'm basically done. I just have to let everything remount. And that all happens on a time function, so in about 8 minutes it would all happen automatically. But now I can do that all manually. If I go to my containers, this is all on a timed function too, so I can manually start everything up. Check for updates. When the timer counts down, this please wait will go away. And again, my app data remain intact throughout the whole process. My existing Plex server is still there. And this will be able to be stopped once the balancing takes place. If I bring up Plex Server, and go into my libraries, let's go into the public domain one, which I haven't been in here in a while, and I can play anything in here without worrying about a YouTube copyright strike. And my Plex server is working. So Unraid is a fantastic little server OS. Now again, I mention all the time, I love Synology DSM. That's where my media is, that's where it's staying. But if I had to start fresh and I knew everything I knew now, I might have chosen to go with a proper Unraid build all the way and save some money, as much as I love the Synology NAS ecosystem. If Synology released a 6-bay plus model NAS that had a 11th or 12th gen i5 processor in it, I'd have a raffle and raffle off this little Unraid server and give it to one of my users or one of my viewers on Unraid. I'm sorry, on YouTube. I'm getting all discombobulated. I like the Synology NAS ecosystem that much. I love Synology DSM. And if they had a Plus model with 6 bays that was expandable maybe up to 16, or a 5 bay expandable up to 15 drives with an i5 processor, I'd be all over that quickly. But Unraid makes a great little Docker host only install if you want to move your Plex server to a fast NUC, and if you want to just create a server from scratch with storage, Unraid is great at that too. So I appreciate you watching this long video, but that's how you swap out cache drives in Unraid, and no Plex server was harmed in this video. Thanks for watching.